We all know what a challenge and a joy it can be, captured in that deceptively simple phrase, a year in the garden. Get it right, and you can give yourself boundless pleasure. Get it wrong, and imagine the frustrations and annoyances that lurk from compost heap to herbaceous border that creep across lawn and vegetable patch when your back's turned. Well, in the next couple of hours, we're going to be taking Gardener's Question Time through the seasons, on a mission to help you get things more right than wrong in the future. Joining me, Eric Robson, here in the potting shed, will be the whole Gardener's Question Time team, armed with advice on everything from plants and planting to pests, diseases, design and seasonally topical tips. So, just conjure up the scene. You're looking out from the potting shed on a wintry garden, a frosted architecture of triumph and failure. There's the rhymed wisteria that flowered for the first time this year. That's the solitary triumph. Of course, the other list is longer. Over there, the rambling rose that didn't. In that far corner, the sad vegetable beds that should have been cleared a month ago. Here, the patch of permafrost, where, as only you know, lie dahlia tubers that should have been lifted and stored. And all about plants that you hope wishful thinking will bring through another winter. But look on the bright side, because at least you're taking time to look. The gardening year starts here, in the company of Matthew Biggs, Bunny Guinness and John Cushnie, shivering in the potting shed with me as we address some of the key gardening questions of winter. And this really is the starting blocks for the gardening year, isn't it, Matthew?
Yeah, it certainly is. I mean, there's never really a lull. In fact, I do have a little bit of a rest over Christmas, I have to say. I like to put my feet up. But even then, a chance to nip round the garden, have a look and see what's in flower is always there for the taking.
John Cushnie?
Yeah, and a little goes a long way. In the summer you have to have masses of flower, and yet you just find one plant in bloom whenever you dander around the garden, as Matthew says, and you're happy. It's fantastic.
Bunny?
For me, it's the most exciting time of year, because rather than putting my feet up, I like to redesign or redo one area and get some structural work done.
Now then, with winter approaching, some plants, especially those in containers, will certainly need a bit of help to survive the cold. So, Matthew Biggs, what's the best way to protect them?
Well, in an ideal world, you'd shift everything into a frost-free greenhouse or shed, and that includes all your hardy plants, because you're thinking not only of the plants themselves, but also of the containers. Generally, we go out and buy the containers from the garden centre, terracotta. Some people say that their product, in fact, is frost-tolerant, but given that the temperatures can get really low, that it can even damage them. So in an ideal world, they would all be protected. If you've got hardy plants growing out in containers, the key thing really is to protect the pots and to raise them off the ground to help the drainage. And I also move mine and put them all in the shelter of a wall where they're away from the frost and the cold wind and also the excessive rainfall that can happen during the winter time. And I tend just to wrap the containers with bubble wrap or with hessian to protect anything that's, as I say, glazed pot or terracotta. The plastic ones, it doesn't matter so much, but it's still worth pursuing that idea, because, again, there's always the chance that the root ball can get very sodden and frozen. So it's just a matter, really, of protecting the plant and the container. The containers that I've got with hostas and similar herbaceous plants, they normally get dumped in the bottom of a hedge and covered with leaves. That gives them good protection. And I've got a little corner where there's some evergreen hedge. That helps too. And it's also a west-facing site. If you've got an open hedge where the base is very open and it's cold wind cuts underneath, then obviously that's you've got to make sure that you give some protection. The other thing too is to create windbreaks around them. You can either just put up netting around those pots, or group small pots together and then cover them with horticultural fleece. If you've got plants that are hardy in most winters, but if it gets particularly cold, are likely to get scorched, particularly damaging the leaves, like myrtles, for example, I not only wrap the pots, but also then wrap the individual plants in fleece and just peg them together. The thing that you must avoid doing is wrapping them in something like plastic or thinking that bubble wrap will help them, because in the end what will happen there is that you will just end up with a mush. They will just rot away. If you've got plants like alpines in troughs, then again, any of the cushion plants that are liable to collect water in amongst the leaves, and again, they're likely to rot, you can just put little cloches over those. So really it's just making sure that the water can't get into either the pots themselves to do damage, that the wind is actually stopped from scorching tender leaves, and that the plants can at least just hang in there through the winter.
John Cushnie?
Well, yeah, because we get it not only wet, but we get hard frost as well. And I found a great way is to plunge, especially with...
Sample complete. Ready to continue?